Hi, this is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Welcome to another program. I was just listening to the beginning of a program by the political scientist Ian Bremmer, who was commenting upon the situation right now in the Near East between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And as he correctly pointed out, long before the Zionist movement was started by Theodor Herzl in the 19th century, there were Muslims, there were Jews, and there were Christians living on that land. He is correct. However, what happened in the 1940s was that the United Nations, which then operated Palestine, had agreed through a vote in the United Nations Security Council to partition Palestine, one sector for the Jews, one sector for the Palestinians. The Jews accepted that. The Palestinians, I think correctly, in my view, turned that down, because that would have meant that it would have meant exactly what has happened. That Palestinians would have been uprooted from their homes. Imagine somebody in some international body far, far away from you decides, okay, the town that you were living in, the state that you were living in, will henceforth be divided in two. Whatever that two might be. Use your imagination. It shouldn't be hard to come up with a scenario like that. One part of your state, say my state of Texas, would go to one group and the other would go to the other group. The problem is that your home is in a location which will belong to the other group. Your job is in a location which will go to the other group. And therefore, to carry out that mandate would mean that you uproot yourself and your family and move to the other sector of the state, of Texas in this case. How would you feel about that? Would you go? Would you protest? Would you resist? Well, the Palestinians had no choice, because the Jews, soon to be Israelis, who came into Palestine before that land was given to the Jews, they flattened the homes of Palestinians, killing many of them, allowing some to stay, but exiling most of them to the Palestinian territories, where they have remained ever since. Some of them have been granted homes elsewhere, for example, in Jordan. But Jordan has said that it has no more room. It can't accept any more Palestinians. That is the plight, the current plight of the Palestinians. They have no real home. Their home is a prison, or two prisons, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. divided from one another by Israel. Meaning, in order to get by car from one part of Palestine to the other, either you have to drive through Israel, or else you have to drive through one of the Arab states around it, which would be, of course, much longer, assuming those Arab states would even allow you to do that. And so these Palestinians are caught in a quagmire. Now, what do I think should happen? I don't believe in borders, personally. I don't believe in national borders. I believe that anybody should be free to live wherever they want. Israel does not believe that. Israel does not share my sentiment. They force the Palestinians to live in these occupied territories. Now, with the war on the West Bank, Hamas will no longer have any power there. Not to say that I feel bad for Hamas. They certainly are a terrorist group, much as Israel is a terrorist state. I'm not happy with either one of them. But on the other hand, Hamas has at least been defending the rights of Palestinians. Who has King Bibi been defending? A first world country? A country with direct ties to the West? A country being financed by the United States and Germany in particular? A country which has been supplied with the Iron Dome, which essentially makes that country impenetrable by air. The only reason Hamas got in and was successful well beyond its expectations was because rather than bombing Israel, it launched a ground invasion. Israel was not prepared for that. Well, of course, now they are. So where does that leave the Palestinians? I don't know. But solution. You may or may not agree with my solution. Ultimately, my solution is the end of national borders. They have caused so much havoc in the world. But that's too broad a question to consider in a single podcast. Let's focus on Palestine and Israel. There should, in my opinion, be no two-state solution. There should be a one-state solution. That one state should be Palestine, run by all the people who choose to stay there, whether it's Muslims, Christians, Jews, whoever decides to remain there will be eligible to hold elective office. But Israel will no longer be a Jewish theocracy, which is what it is right now, depriving Palestinians of their rights. Palestinians who are actually citizens of Israel and live in Israel. Their rights are being taken away. The world has noticed. You can't pull the wool over people's eyes like this and expect people not to pay attention. The world knows what Israel is doing. Why the Western world, why the First World continues to support Israel is not mysterious. Israel is a part of the First World. It is a bastion, perhaps the bastion of the First World in the Near East. Other countries like Saudi Arabia, like Kuwait, like Iraq, perhaps, might be considered as allies of the United States, of NATO, and of the First World more generally, but they are not a part of the First World. They are a part of the Third World. Only Israel is a part of the First World. So my solution to the ages-old conflict in that region, the conflict did not just start with Theodor Herzl. Theodor Herzl, who was an atheist, who did not believe that Israel should be established to fulfill biblical prophecies, he could care less about biblical prophecies. He just thought that Israel should be given, or an Israel should be given to the Jews, just like other people had their own countries. He didn't care whether it was in Palestine. The idea of Israel being in Palestine was an idea that emerged much later, especially during World War II, when many Jews, primarily Reform, Reconstructionist, Conservative, and Modern Orthodox, formed an alliance to press for the establishment of an Israel in Palestine and to spread the disgusting lie that Palestine was a desert, uninhabited. Not true. Not true. It was inhabited. Well, until Israel flattened the buildings, that is. So I have no problem with Jews remaining in Palestine, or Christians, or Muslims, or whoever. But I do have a problem with a Jewish theocracy occupying Palestine. And let there be no doubt, Israel is a Jewish theocracy. It is a country run by and for Jews, as we can see right now, again, with Palestinian Israelis being deprived systematically of their rights. These are citizens of Israel who just happen not to be Jews. If anything proves that Israel is a theocracy, that's it. You don't need any more evidence than that. So to heck with the two-state solution. It's gone anyway. King Bibi has long ago dismissed it. Whoever talks about the two-state solution anymore? Well, occasionally somebody will bring it up, but not very often. Why? Because they know the reality of the situation on the ground in that part of the world. They know it's unrealistic. It's rhetoric. Anybody that talks about the two-state solution in 2023 is simply blowing air. That's all. There is no validity to the concept of a two-state solution in 2023, nor can I see any validity to a two-state solution at any time in the foreseeable future. So let's just end this the charade about a two-state solution. It's not going to happen. Will a one-state solution happen? In a way, I think that's even less likely, because that would mean that the Israeli theocracy would need to be dismantled. But a one-state solution, in spite of all the odds against it, would be just. It would be fair. It would recognize that many different peoples have long called Palestine home. And to relegate Palestine primarily to the Jews, while keeping Palestinians imprisoned, and that includes Jewish Palestinians and Christian Palestinians, they are imprisoned too. It's not only Muslims. That fact alone should be reason enough to give up on this fantasy of a two-state solution. You could argue it's reason to give up on a one-state solution. I somehow see that as hopeless, even though I am proposing it, but I will propose it nevertheless. Why not? Why not? That's what should exist in that part of the world. And I don't know what other solution there is. The solution is not a solution aside from a one-state solution. And I think that that solution that is not a solution may very well be what happens. And that is the complete and utter destruction, the devastation of the First World, which includes Israel. Now, if you have an NBC attack, nuclear, biological, chemical attack on first world countries, say on Israel, or pick a country, especially a country that is in the first world surrounded by third world countries. There aren't many of them. How do you stop the radiation? How do you stop the biological agents? How do you stop the chemicals at the border? The answer is you can't. So if there is an NBC attack on first world countries, third world countries will suffer too, but hopefully not anywhere near as much. At least that's what one can wish for. And I say wish for in spite of the fact that I despise the concepts of wishing and hoping. I use those terms regularly because I can't think of an alternative. But wishing and hoping refer to idealism, ontological idealism, the mind. The mind is not the solution. Mental solutions, mental constructions will not solve the problem of inequity and inequality in the modern day world. So, when, and I say when, the first world, which includes Israel, which includes North America, with the exception of Mexico and Latin and Central America, which includes Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Japan. When those countries may be wiped off the face of the map, hopefully, the third world, enough of the third world, will remain as a remnant to begin the revolutionary struggle for a communist world system. This is Mark. by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.